Hello and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the podcast where we speak to mavericks across the comedy world. Now, today's guest is a hilarious comedian, MC, you could say a comedy club maverick of shows, a man that puts on comedy shows all in, dare I say, the Scottish. Is it Scottish belt, right? The Scottish belt.
Central Belt.
The Central
Central.
Belt. Or he
Yeah,
puts on comedy shows in the Central Belt. He started comedy shows in 2021. And according to Google AI, it is a family club, comedy club business. A
yeah.
lot like Tony Soprano in the Mafia. So any comedians that don't do well or that wind them up, watch out.
Yes.
Welcome, Ross Leslie.
How you doing, Marvin? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm going to save that and demand that everybody introduces me like that. That's lovely.
And are you gonna do it with like a gun or like with a knife or like?
Not just gentle persuasion. I think is for the order of the day. But that was lovely. Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. And for anyone that hasn't heard about you, this month I don't know why, but my main audience is in America, but for this month my biggest audience is all the way in Vietnam.
Wow.
So
Okay.
for people that are all across the globe listening in, tell us a bit about who you are and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So I started stand-up comedy as a performer in 2012. Which was me proving to my wife that I could do it. Because I said to her, I might try stand up comedy. And she says, I wouldn't be able to do that because I'm too shy. And I thought, I'll show you. So I kind of started this career out of spite a little bit, just to get one up over my. She's right about everything normally, but she was wrong about this one thing. So I started performing in 2012, working away, try to get up higher up the ladder and prove my set and all that sort of thing. Then after the pandemic, I tried to take things to another level by running my own shows, partly to get more experience hosting shows, being an MC. And also after the pandemic, I started doing walking tours. I do historical walking tours. So that was another kind of a thing that I've got up my sleeve, and it was quite good for my career as well because it kind of slowed me down a little bit and got me using better diction and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of an abridged version. So started comedy 14 years ago. Yeah, and been promoting for 5, just about 5. So that's kind of my deal.
And am I right in saying that so you run comedy clubs and but the comedy walking tours, do you do it in Edinburgh and Glasgow? Is that a big
Yeah,
part of your company?
a little bit. It's getting bigger. It was always just Edinburgh, but we started Glasgow this year, and they've been very successful. Got lots of bookings in, and yeah, it's going to be. To be honest, there's probably more bookings in Glasgow than there is in Edinburgh. So
Oh,
I'm having to take on uh, comedian friends who want to do them. So we're trying to create a nice wee kind of network of comedians who do walking tours by day and then do stand up comedy at night. So always said it's like the worst superhero, the worst kind of dual life or secret identity. So yeah, so it's quite a lot of crossover skills and stuff. You're basically keeping people's attention, being funny, being charming, and all that sort of thing. So we try to cater for everybody by having the walking tours as well. So we can make you laugh during the day as well as at night as well.
yeah, that's did you do the walking tours before or after running comedy clubs? Because I've seen there's a few in
After,
London and there's
after.
okay.
Yeah, not long after. Like with it, they're probably within the same sort of 9 month period, like roughly. 2022 is when we first started doing tours. Yeah, so about 4 or 5 years.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And what led you to being like a comedy club organizer as well? Because I mean, being a comedian can be a pain in the ass, but being a comedy club organizer can be a pain in the ass as well because you got all
Yes.
sorts of nonsense to deal with from comics, other promoters. But to me, with some of the shows that I run, the people that I dislike the most are the venues. I'm sorry to say, it's not the comedians or like the audience, but people that I dislike the most seem to be the venues. I don't know why.
Yes, like, that is the toughest relationship is with the venues because you're using their room, so there's a lot of pressure on you to use it respectfully and get people in and stuff. But the I can't remember what your question was. I think you asked the reason I started. The reason I started promoting my own shows and own venues is I don't know if you remember during the pandemic, comedy was not around, of course, and a lot of comedy clubs said that comedians had to use or had to buy their own microphones so as not to spread disease, well, COVID basically. And I bought a good microphone, and then I thought I've got into buying some other stuff. I was like, I've got enough here to put on my own show now, so I thought I'll just do my own show and just see how that goes. But it is putting on comedy shows is tough for a few different reasons, like looking after the venue, but also you're dealing with so many different personalities and characters. I'm quite a straightforward person. I don't have many hidden agendas or nothing, but a lot of comedians, maybe if you've got a lineup with 5 different comedians on, that's like 5 very different people who need different things. They need information given to them in a different way and stuff like that. So just trying to remember how everybody works and stuff. So that's pretty tough dealing with lots of different people. The audiences are the easiest people to deal with because
Yes.
it's normal people. Though, just as long as you give them a good value for their ticket money, then you're fine. But I think dealing with lots of different personalities, and you'll know from speaking to comedians yourself, and I can't say I'm not myself, but there are some unusual characters in comedy who have very interesting character traits. So like having to kind of deal with that in a kind of polite and respectful way can be quite challenging at times.
Yes. I'm guessing there's a few times where you're like you have no choice but to be.
Yeah, you just would be just like kind of turn the cheek or whatever, and just like not say what you want to say because you want them to perform well on stage. So just like, yeah, okay, this you go and do your thing. But we tend to. So I think you said at the start, it is a genuine family-run company. It's me, obviously, and my 2 sons that run the
Oh,
business. Yeah, so we get help from people on an ad hoc basis. My friend Sarah, her and I, our company and her, run the baby comedy shows that we do, which we can talk about later if you like. But that's me and my 23-year-old son who he does lots of the act booking because that's his kind of thing. He likes doing that. And my 17-year-old son does quite a lot of the admin in the background, does a bit of the social media, a bit of kind of artwork and imagery and stuff. There's a jet like I
oh,
don't say it just to make it sound wholesome. It is a genuine family business. Like
that's
me and my
good.
2 boys have chats every day about new shows we've got coming up and stuff. So it is a genuine family business that we have. My wife she lets us get on with it really.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
I find yeah, there's a saying that you've probably heard a lot of, and people say you don't mix family with business. What is your counteract to that, and yeah, what are your thoughts on that saying?
I think because like I'm quite very lucky. I've got all boys. We don't have daughters. Me and my wife. We have 4 sons. My oldest son is my stepson, but we've got like 4 sons together, and we got on great. So it's not like I think a 17-year-old boy and his dad might not necessarily get on that well, but me and Oren, who's my son, we get on great. I think because we're quite close as well, we can be honest with each other, and like if we think something's a bad idea, we can say that. But I find it more difficult dealing with people that I'm not not related to. I think because I know them so well, and we're all very keen to make Good Egg as big a thing as possible. Not as big a thing, but as successful a thing as possible. Like not necessarily financially, but just to make it like a kind of place where people want to come to our shows and people want to perform at our shows. And we're all very keen for that to happen. It's not a huge money maker of the business, but it is a nice business for us to work together on. They have other things going on. My son actually just popped his head in there. I gave him a wee shoe away. He's got another job, so he's away to do that just now. He works in a pool hall. So we've got other things going on, but we come together, especially at sort of festival time when we've got festivals on. We work quite closely together. We're working together for 12 hours a day, like in close proximity and stuff. I'm quite lucky that I get on great with my kids. Otherwise, if you didn't, it'd be quite difficult. But they're fully invested in like making it a success as well. So
It's a big sort of passion project for all three of you to turn
pretty
it
much,
into like a full-time thing, and like you have your own sort of club. What without saying too much, I found recently when I've said like things that I want to do, the bad thing about it is sometimes people will say things to get in the way of it, or they'll steal it. But
yeah,
it's you want to build it into something, and I think with a lot of comedy clubs they don't always have that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. No, we do enjoy it working together. Oh, my youngest is still young. He's still 17. He's not quite as passionate as me and Rooney, but he will get there. He does. He's like occasionally at first he would not be as interested to kind of cajole him along, but now he's coming down like, oh, do you need anything done? And oh yeah, I'll go and deal with that just now and stuff. So it's getting he's getting more passionate about it as he gets a bit older. But we work great together, and we've lots of things to work on. So quite lucky that way.
What was the so you how many sort of clubs do you guys run together as a whole throughout the whole of Scotland?
We've got two like weekly shows. One in Edinburgh on a Thursday, which we've been running for 2.5 years now. And the other one is every Friday in Glasgow, which that was our first show. That's been running since 2021. So we've got those two every week, and then I think last year we had 150 shows overall. I think might be totally wrong. And this year it's probably going to be a bit more because we've taken on more little venues and stuff for like monthly gigs and stuff like that. So two venues where we are there every week, sometimes more than once a week, and then lots of satellite gigs or other shows as we call it on the road. So I think this week we've got 4 shows this week, if I'm not mistaken. So we do quite a fair bit. I think apart from Chris, who you've had on from Blackfriars, and Monkey Barrel and the Stand, they're the 3 big comedy venues with more shows. I think we're 4th, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty good for considering it's just me and my 2 boys, really.
And you've only been going for about 5 years.
I do, yeah. So we do a lot of work to make the shows as good as possible.
I'm guessing it would have been a nightmare if it was just one of you, because it's great that you got one serving their strengths. If it was just you booking all the shows, like if it was 20, I'm guessing you could do 20 or something like that. And if you booked it, oh my God.
Yeah, I'd have to not do the walking tours. I'd have to give that up just to do that full time. Which I wouldn't mind. I do love like if Rory's busy, I'll do the act booking and stuff, and occasionally I'll book acts anyway. But just because if something has to be done quickly, and he's maybe away because he's a 23-year-old boy, so he goes out and nights out and stuff. But I couldn't do it all on my own. Otherwise, I'd have to give up so much other things really.
Now, when you're putting on shows and doing all the prep, I know that with Jim Howarth, who is like he's won loads of awards and he's an incredible comedy
Spot or something. Is that him? Comedy Spot, I think. Down in Lincoln, or I think I've spoke to him maybe once before, but he puts on great shows by lots of things.
Yeah. I've heard so many things. Like, he says he attributes it to like military discipline, where he.
I think he was in the army, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps. But I've heard that he's quite very organised and all that sort of thing.
Like you've had a life before comedy, And
Hmm.
I think the most thing that I find most interesting about comedy is who they are outside of it. And there's
Yeah.
so many people that do it. So what was your background that's helped you in regards to preparing and
Um,
making comedy shows work?
I was always very good at organising and admin. Like my first job when I was 17 was working as like an office junior, just helping out doing administrative stuff. And I've always kind of been good at organising and all that sort of thing. So over the years, I began to move into estate agency. I was like, I used to value houses and stuff, and I was always very, very good at paperwork. So I've got that in my locker, like, or like paperwork's excellent. We've got like so many, uh, like, Google Sheets and Google Documents that kind of there's like a manual, a Bible, if you like, of how we do everything and stuff. So, like, if one of us like was to go away or whatever, then somebody else wanted to bring on a member of staff that would like be on a salary, we could easily give them all the tools to start. So I think my organisation skills and stuff is uh, what helped me in the early days. Like, I'm good at kind of following up on people and stuff like that. So not to, I'm not making this up, but people used to refer to me as the admin king in comedy. I always said I was the best at admin. Like, I'm not the best comedian in Scotland by any stretch of the imagination, but I am the best at admin. And that was like a running joke with me and some other comedy pals. It's the admin king, because I was always quite good at organising things and helping others with their organisational skills. So yeah, I was known as the admin king. Nobody's called me that for a while, actually. I'll probably try and bring it back, but yeah, that's what people refer to me as.
And I suppose you definitely need it during the big Glasgow International Comedy
Yeah,
Festival.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. We run more shows than anyone. We had 180 shows exactly at the festival, which was like a quarter of the festival were our shows.
Ooh.
I think it was like 28%, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Our year-round Glasgow venue had over 100 shows just in one room, which was massive. So yeah, that's our Edinburgh Fringe is bigger than Glasgow Comedy Festival, but for us, Glasgow Comedy Festival is our busiest time of the year, and it kind of just never goes away either, because you start kind of programming it in September, and then you've got the big run up to March. So it's like, it just seems like it never goes away. It's just like a constant in our life. It's organising it and then getting ready for it and then recovering from it and stuff like that. So, but that's our biggest 2.5 weeks. That's crazy busy. I'm not home for like 3 weeks basically. I'm just living in Glasgow.
What about the Ed Fringe? Would you guys add the admin of that
Yeah,
to you guys as well?
we've got a wee venue this year. Actually, we're kind of hoping to build up the Good Egg brand at the Edinburgh Fringe, but a lot of the rooms and venues are already spoken for. So it's just trying to find things that are, or
Uh,
find rooms and venues that aren't um, in use already. And we've got a couple of things perhaps coming up, maybe for next year. But at the moment, our Glasgow venue partner have just bought a new place in Edinburgh, so
uh,
we're using their room, not the full run, but just for part of it, just to get it up and running, really. So, we'd like to be as big in Edinburgh as we are in Glasgow, but that's like a 5 year project or something. That's going to take a while. So there's so many big promoters already there. It's going to be quite hard to break into that a little bit.
yeah. Well,
But
but with how would you say? I would love to give the Glasgow International Comedy Festival a go, but how would you say they're different? Because I know one Scottish comedian like Peter Wood told me that there was a weird alternative act that was stripping or doing sorts of weird things, and they loved
mhm.
him in Edinburgh. But as soon as he went into Glasgow, they're like, "What is this? I'm not doing the accent, but what is this
Yeah,
piss shite?"
yeah, they're very different comedy crowds in general. Like, the Glasgow the Edinburgh Fringe is the biggest arts festival in the world, of course, and it's you can try things and you can be a bit unique and a bit different. You can put on like character acts, you can do whatever sketches. The Glasgow Comedy Festival is more just a stand up. I know the festival director very, very well, and she'd probably disagree, saying there is other genres there, but it is pretty much a stand up comedy festival. Like, there is The occasional person does something a wee bit different, but they just want jokes. They want to hear funny stories. They want to hear jokes, and they don't have time for anyone. As I don't know, I can't remember what you said, but whoever described that said they don't have time for that kind of nonsense and that. That's not. It's just I would say, it's quite a liberal city in general, Glasgow, but they're quite. This is a city of Billy Connolly and Kevin Bridges and Frankie Boyle. Like they just want somebody telling jokes, making them laugh. They don't want to complicate it too much. In general, that's what I would say. But yeah, they're very, very different vibes.
If for someone that's from London and all of that, what would be your advice on navigating the cities, but also in performing them? Because I know I remember someone in Glasgow saw me with an England shirt and had a go at me on one of the forums, but then in Edinburgh they didn't want to bother. But it's I know that I made a joke with Kate Copstick, and I said to her, this is what I said to her. She says, "If you get me a drink, I'll tell you everything you want." And I said, would you like a deep fried Mars bar as well? She got well wound. She didn't get wound up by it, but she said, "That is racist, you racist bastard."
Not about racist, but maybe stereotyping a bit. But yeah, what was your original question? So just like the difference if you're coming up from London.
If you're a comedian and you're playing rooms in Edinburgh. And also if you're visiting in terms of like the culture, because a lot of musicians couldn't break America, and a lot of the times people just say they didn't understand the culture. In Glasgow and Edinburgh, they're completely different cities, almost like different countries, aren't they? How would a comedian prepare if they're staying over, like to adjust, and also doing their set?
Yeah, the kind of layout of the cities is completely different as well. Edinburgh, especially during the Fringe, is a tiny little village where there's like 1 million people living in close proximity. You can walk everywhere, so you can really soak up the culture. If you're a comedian before doing a show, you can basically walk around everywhere that you want to walk around in Edinburgh, whereas Glasgow is like a bigger sprawl. And within Glasgow itself, there's lots of different kind of, the south side of Glasgow is very different kind of like sort of nightlife than there is in the East End. The East End was obviously not obviously, but was at one point a more impoverished part of town. So within Glasgow, it's a bigger kind of sprawl, and there's kind of wee communities within the city centre. Whereas Edinburgh is just, especially during the Fringe, people are travelling here to come and see it. Whereas Glasgow, especially for the festival, it's just local people coming out to see comedy. So that is why I think. They're very different in that regard, that it's local people who are coming to see a show, don't like taking risks themselves with buying tickets. They're quite happy just to buy tickets to all the big shows at the big theatres and stuff. So it's been quite tough for a lot of acts coming from not just London but other parts of England without a kind of following to kind of break Glasgow, because it's quite hard unless you are have that online following, or you've got like a friend of a friend up here who can kind of help you cross promote. So quite a lot of people come up expecting it to be like Edinburgh, and there'll be like an audience on your doorstep, whereas Glasgow you have to kind of have one built in or be willing to try to bring one in. Also at Glasgow you don't do flyering like in Edinburgh, where you hand out flyers and stuff. Glasgow you don't really do that. You can do it, obviously it's not legal, but it's not really the festival for doing that, because people walking about the streets are just going to the shops or going to work or going to pick up their kids or whatever. Whereas Edinburgh, they're here for it and they're waiting on the flyers and they want to see what's going on and stuff like that. So two vastly different cities in general, but vastly different comedy festivals as well.
But one thing that both cities definitely share, you've probably seen the worst comedy shows and seen a go-to guide and not to do comedy shows in both cities. And what would you say, what have been the worst things you've seen in terms of comedy shows in both cities that you make sure not to do in your own shows?
Yeah, I think when you start out, you do so many bad shows because you just want to get on stage and you just want to like get experience and miles on the clock. But the amount of shows, there's still a few now that I don't do, but I know for a fact there's a lot of shows because I hear from people about people putting on comedy shows when it's almost like the venue don't want it. It's like it's the show's happening in a bar where people are ordering drinks and they're not even there for comedy. They're just there to chat to their pals. That happens so many times. It used to happen quite a lot when I was performing years ago. You turn up thinking it's going to be this great room, but it's just a pub, and it's just like people just sitting there unaware that comedy is about to happen to them, basically, as opposed to turning up for comedy. So that is a definite issue. Is the room set up for comedy? And there's so many, like when I'm looking at new venues and stuff, we turn down quite a lot of venues because I go to look at them and I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. Like even though you've not got anybody in, you're maybe going to see it on a Wednesday morning when nobody's in, but you just get a feel for a place. It's like this won't work, even if there's like the 50 of the most comedy savvy fans in the world here. It just won't work because that bit of the audience area can't see the stage, or there's the toilet's too close in the hand dryer, it's quite noisy or whatever. Just like you just get a feel for it, that it won't work there. So we turn down stuff like that 'cause, just like it's not going to be enjoyable for us. It'll last one show and you'll get fed up with it, and it'll just be a waste of everybody's time. And then you'll see somebody else will pick up that venue, and that happens quite a lot. We turn down so many that we're just like, and other people will do it and without any experience. But we have like, I don't know if I've actually got a written down list, but in my head, I always have like a wee kind of checklist in my head. Can everybody in the audience see the stage? Is it a separate room? Is there a if it's not a separate room, is there lots of noise coming from the main bar? Is it like can we kind of play with the lights and stuff like that? Is it going to just be this well lit bar? And we do lots of, or I do lots of wee kind of checklists in my head just to make sure it's worth it. Because apart from anything, it's just you get to a certain stage in life where you just want to do things that you enjoy, and there are a few places like I could do that, but it'd just be like soul destroying. So I'd rather not do that for the sake of £100 or whatever. It's like I'd rather
Yeah.
spend that night in the house and then see if I can find a better venue somewhere else, or I can do another like tour or whatever. It's like you do get a bit more selective. When I first started promoting, I was just like, yeah, I'll try and do a show here, but no, not anymore. No, just get too long in the tooth for that.
And you're a bit tired of certain nonsense.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 100%. Try to think if there's any other kind of the worst thing that for a comedian on stage is noise coming from elsewhere in the venue. I was doing a charity show in October, I think, last year. It was a really nice lad. I can't remember his name. He was raising money for, I think, a cancer charity, and he was going to be climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Whoa.
And he wanted to put on a comedy show to bolster the funds and stuff. And he was lovely, and all the acts on were lovely. And he's seen me host at one of my shows, and he messaged me on Instagram saying, "Would you host my charity thing?" He's like, "Yeah, of course, I'll do it for free. I'm quite happy to do it." It was close by to where it was anyway, and it was in Glasgow, and it was a small room that had loads of kind of noise coming from the main bar, and a big pub crawl came in at one point. And I think I put it on Instagram actually. And my friend Elaine, who's a very, very funny comedian, was on stage at the time, and you couldn't hear her. She had a microphone, you couldn't hear her because the pub crawl came in like, oh, you know, that sort of thing. And it was just like, no, it's just like, no, thank you. That is the worst thing that can happen, I think, is not being set up right for comedy, and you get people coming in and interrupting or whatever. Sometimes completely unaware that they're interrupting the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Could we share some funny stories that we've had and some dodgy things? Because I don't mind going first.
Oh, you go for it. Yeah, I'll give me time.
I'll share
Thank you.
some of mine. So I recently, I won't give any names or like give name of the venue or anything like that, but I'll say a couple of things that I've had that have been dodgy horror stories in terms of venues and other things. So there was one venue that I worked with recently. It was actually in an okay location. It's near the train station. It was in, and it was good location. And they would close the bar off when they put on a comedy show. That's fine, like for just that, and they have lighting and all of that. But the thing that, and sometimes when I've worked with venues, I don't see things until later on when I work with them or like figure things out. So first thing, this venue, they've run comedy shows here before, but they said to me, "We want to get a split of your tickets because we don't know you yet." And this sounds dodgy from the start, but I
Yeah.
thought, oh, that was the end of it. Then I get a couple months later on, they say, "Oh, I thought about what you said in terms of I will only split the tickets with a venue if they sell food or drink on top of the ticket because I got something to
Mm.
sell, and I
Yeah.
keep the comedy ticket." And that she thought about it and she agreed with it. Then she agreed to it, and then we put on a show and we started advertising it. The things that were a bit dodgy was she wanted to take the money from the door, and she did it all of a sudden, and she wanted me to
Mm.
pay my side of it straight away, right there, which was a bit dodgy. And she
Yeah.
says, "I don't work with people that don't trust me," and that isn't that a bit dodgy? But I didn't
Yeah,
see
that's
that
a
at the time.
strange
And
thing to
then,
say.
but you also don't. And then what happened at the end? We were going to have a conversation. Some of the conversation was a little bit disrespectful from her side in terms of, but I've had a couple of things where I don't think about things. Like a couple of days later, I figure it all out, and I just sacked it off. But what have been? That's one of the situations. And then I had
Mm.
another one where I had a venue go by my back, and then another promoter took it. But yeah,
Yeah,
but from
that
your
happens.
side of things, what have been dodgy things? So from my side, as soon as someone says, "Oh, I've got to trust you," like no,
Yeah,
trust is
yeah.
earned. You don't need to say those sort of things if you
No,
are
that's right. Yeah,
trustworthy.
it should be unsaid. Yeah, 100%. I can't think of any kind of venue issues off the top of my head like that. Let's have a little think. Uh, and a strange thing, which could be quite interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you. So my Edinburgh venue, which I love, it's a cocktail bar in Edinburgh. It's the cocktails are amazing. Like I'm
Oh,
not a huge drinker these days, but just occasionally once every 6 months or something, I'll after the show have a cocktail. And it's just the most amazing concoctions. The guy Alex that runs the bars is incredible.
oh,
But we had a show there 2 months ago. It was actually very quiet. I can't remember why. It was February. It was just quiet, whatever. And it's a very small venue. It's only got a 35 capacity. It's a very cool wee venue. And we had 10 people in, and there were the 10 people were kind of no, started off with eight. The eight people in were a Portuguese guy who was lovely, and then three young German girls who were like 19, and then four of the oldest people you've ever seen in your life at the back of them, who were local. And the so as I started the show, I didn't put on big airs and graces. I was hosting. I was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be weird, but let's kind of work together here. Well, you've paid your money. I've got great comedians here. Let's have some fun." So I thought we'll do a quick kind of round the houses. Where are you from? He's like from Portugal. And the three German girls, I didn't know they were German at this point. I said, "Hey, girls, nice to meet you." They're only like 19 years old. I said, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Germany." And then the four old people, or one of the four old people at the back, muttered under their breath, but loud as anything, "Oh, don't mention the war," like the Faulty Towers quote. I was like, Jesus Christ. I kind of slagged them off at that point. I mean, ladies, don't worry about it. They're referencing a television show from 50 years ago. Like, old people, just forget it. So a couple of days passed after the show, and we got through it. It was actually all right in the end. I got a 3-star review from the old people
what?
on, yeah, and it said something like, I might be slightly wrong, but it said the comedians were great, they were trying their best, but there were not many people in, so it made an awkward atmosphere, which I didn't agree with because I think it was perfectly nice for 8 people, or ended up being 12 people arrived. I've never done this before. Because we don't get many negative reviews, so I responded to the negative review by saying, thanks for that. That's certainly not going to help numbers, you giving us a terrible review. And I said what didn't help was when certain audience members made some three young lasses feel like feel quite concerned and upset about like making comments about their nationality, and I felt like such a petty bitch doing it. But I just wanted to do it because I thought I'm not having that. You made it more difficult with your actions. Like we did our best. We got people in, and we had a fun show. And I'd never done that before. I'm always like, oh, if they didn't like it, didn't like it. But I must have been in a bad mood. I got that, and I said to my wife, I'm going to respond to that person. Complete. So I felt like a right Karen going after them, but it felt quite good as well. But they don't have like not many venue issues with venue owners and stuff. They're all very friendly, the ones we work with. But that's the only time we've had a kind of audience issue. I can't remember what your original question was. Like, what did you actually ask? Like, what?
So I mentioned like a mad story, a strange thing, and I was asking if you've had it from audience members or comedians or
Yeah,
venues, and I mentioned my dodgy story. And
yeah.
funny, in fact, you said you don't work with them, then someone else is actually going to take it. But it's, yeah.
Yeah, that happens quite often. People just take. Sometimes we put on shows, and then it's happened twice actually. A comedian who, well, not really a comedian, but like somebody who does comedy, who not professional standard, will then email the venue directly asking if they can put on shows as well. And I
Yeah.
am very close with, especially the Glasgow venue, the lady Sophie that runs those venues. Like she's a friend. Like we've gotten so well. And she immediately responded, like, "Do you want to deal with this guy?" It's like, I can't believe that you would actually think that that would work. Apart from anything, just going behind my back and approaching a venue directly about putting on shows. So I didn't work with these people again. I was like, that's but how people thought that would work, and how to have the kind of the balls to do that as well. Just like seems weird. You've had a fun time at a show. What made you think you could put on a better one? Just like it's like very bad manners, apart from anything.
And highly narcissistic. No, I'm
Yeah.
joking.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Like I had a great time, but I could have an even better time if I was doing it. Yeah, absolutely. You get some crazy people in this world in general, but the comedy world does get a larger share than
Definitely.
perhaps other sectors, I think.
What is your I've been in comedy for a bit and you've been in comedy a bit. What is your advice for staying above water with because there's so much noise, so much bullshit, so much nonsense in terms of venues, acts and
Mm.
audience occasionally, but as you said, most of them are just normal people. But from
Yeah.
acts and other comedy promoters, there's a lot of horseshit, egos, politics, and all that.
Mm.
What is your word of advice on dealing with the horseshit and garbage?
Probably two things is try not to get involved in too much of the kind of gossip and stuff. I think I was quite guilty when I started out of like, oh, I heard somebody got in trouble or like somebody was being nasty to another person. I'd kind of like be messaging people what happened and stuff, but just try not to get involved in that because it doesn't help your career at all. It just makes you kind of bitter and just it's basically you're taking up time gossiping that you could spend on writing a good joke or like putting that into learning video editing or like do something for your career. And I think also it's quite and not highly sort of not a unique thing to say here, but try and not worry about what other people are doing, because that's social media is so like prevalent in comedy now. There are comedians that are like smashing it online. We talk about Dave, Tattoo Dave's doing great, and I love Dave. His daughter Kendall's a comedian. I don't know if I mentioned that. She's really nice as well. And try and not like worry about what other people are doing because that's their career, that's their kind of line, their trajectory. You just have to try and find your own way. It's like nobody. I don't think anybody gets lost in the shuffle uh, because they were funny and nobody noticed them. I think if you're funny and you work hard and you're nice to people, you will be discovered in whatever way you want. It might not be the television career or the Netflix special you wanted, but you will have a successful career in some shape or form. Just you might have to like temper or your expectations or whatever. But I think if you are working hard, being funny, then and being a good person, then you definitely will have like something like that you something that you can look back on and something you'll be proud of and stuff. Whereas a lot of people tend to think they'll see somebody doing putting out videos every day or whatever, like crowd work clips. I think I've got to do that as well. But sometimes they're putting them out and they're just like not like of a great standard really. Sometimes they're shot terribly, the lighting's terrible, or it's just not particularly funny interaction. And I think no, that's what I've got to do because other people are doing that, so I should be doing that as well. I think it's just like having the confidence just to take a breath and say, no, that's not for me or whatever. I don't have that those videos in my kind of locker. I'll keep ploughing away. I'll keep working hard. I'll keep trying to get better and remaining sort of like a good person as well. That's why we called the company Good Egg as well. We actually started off life as Scotland's best comedians. That's what I started off. I changed it for two reasons. One, my friend Stuart McPherson, who's just moved down to London, actually, he's a Scottish comedian. He's very, very funny. Probably one of the best acts in Scotland. And him and I are very close. And he said one time he was doing a show, he says, I loved doing your shows, Ross, but the fact you've called it Scotland's best comedians, it's putting a lot of pressure on us. I was like, yeah, good point. Yeah. So I changed it to Good Egg Comedy because I wanted our shows to be very inclusive and I wanted people to enjoy doing the shows and enjoy interacting with me and my sons if necessary and at the venues and stuff like that. Because we tend to just book acts that will be funny as well as enhancing the green room atmosphere as well. Like I don't think there's anybody that I book on a regular basis, maybe a one-off gig that I don't personally like as a person. Like because me that hosts pretty much all of the gigs, I couldn't be bothered having somebody on whose company I didn't enjoy being in. So that's why I will say if you're a good egg, then we'll give you a gig basically. That's it's a kind of unwritten comedy club ethos that you have to be somebody we consider sound and somebody we consider enjoyable to be around basically.
Our comedy show is a bit like running a football team match and you're like the manager. Because I watched, this is going to be a very long analogy, but I watched a Jurgen Klopp interview with Stephen Bartlett, and he says his approach to dealing with different people, what's it called? Yeah, he always behaved differently depending on who was in the squad, and you have to do that, as you mentioned, as a comedy promoter. But is it, if you have a bad egg in your football team, the whole team will suffer. You need to have them gel, and it's the same.
It doesn't matter if they're talented or good. If they're just not the right fit, it'll just ruin the vibe as well. I believe that you could have like the best football player, the best comedian, they're like the best in the world or whatever, the best in the scene, and if they're just like rude to people or they have a terrible attitude, then it just ruins the night in a way. Just like I think people notice that as well. They'll notice that the body language is not there between the acts and stuff, and between the hosts of the show, me and the actor. I think people would notice that. But I think I like that. It wasn't too long an analogy. That was good. That was a good analogy. I like that.
But you put that in my head. I think it is. I've run gigs as well, and I think the places where I've really had a good gig. The one thing that I'm starting to do now is I'm doing a few bring your own booze shows where I do hire the hall out, but I make money in corkage as well. Because some of the venues, that's a little thing here, but some of the venues, even if they're good, they close down after maybe 3 or 4 years. And I don't want to have that when I'm putting all this effort to put on a good show and then they close down. At least if I'm running the shows and they're going well, I may have to spend a bit more, but at least it's always there and I don't have to like rebuild again. And that's like the places where it's worked well, Arthur's Cafe in Epsom. I don't know what it is, but they taught me so much in terms of if you're nice to the comics and nice to the audience, you create like a nice atmosphere, it's 100 times better gig. Whilst if you treat it like a job or an admin thing and it's not like a fun day out, then it's not going to be a good gig. That's right.
Yeah. I think that's another thing for comedians to look at as well is like not like I'm okay. Don't have to be nice to me, but just be nice to the venue staff as well. Like because we're guests of the venue that are having us, and like I know all the staff members' names because I've asked what their names are and stuff, and just like when I do Monkey Bar Comedy Club or the Stand, like I know them all. Like unless it's a new person, I know them all by name. It's just getting like to know the people, because these are the people that are bringing your audience drinks and they're looking after your audience and stuff. It's also a self-preservation thing, because if you're doing a weekend club and it kicks off for some reason, very rarely happens, but it can happen if there's a stag doing and they're quite drunk or on cocaine or whatever. If you're quite friendly with the venue staff, it's good to like have that relationship with them. They're going to look after you even more, you would imagine, if you're nice to them and stuff. So I think a lot of comedians forget that. They'll just they'd go there, as you say, it's an admin thing. They're there, they'll do their 20 minutes and go away, and like they've been funny about it. It's just like not a wholesome experience at all.
How when you've been running gigs and shows, how big a difference do you say providing the right atmosphere, the actors and the audience is, and as well as the staff, in terms of good show, and how have you noticed the effects of doing that?
Yeah, I'd say it's very, very important. I think I do little things like when comedians arrive, I'll make sure I speak to them. I might be checking customers in, but I'll make sure I speak to them. Venue staff are quite good at making sure people are not necessarily buying you a pint, but they're like, do you need anything before the show and all that sort of thing. And I think any time I've not done that for whatever reason, sometimes very rarely late for stuff. I'm quite a punctual person, but if I'm running late or a bit stressed and I've kind of forgot my own kind of ethos and I've not been as polite to people as I would like, because I've just been thinking about, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so late, I need to do this, I need to set up the microphones or whatever, I've noticed that the show's not been as good. It's just been a bit chaotic. It's not been as well oiled a machine. The teams felt a bit off and stuff like that. So I think I have noticed a difference when I've not been acting as nicely as I would like to act. So I think it is a noticeable difference. It's rarely you have. Sometimes you have an audience who are just like not off or whatever, and that can affect the show's vibe, obviously a lot as well. But I think if I can lead by example and have everybody happy, I've got 5 acts on that I like to watch myself. It's a new material night, so I'm genuinely excited about what they're going to try, what kind of material they're going to come up with. Was that person's Hannah going to try that routine I liked last time? I feel like my kind of excitement or my anticipation of a good night does kind of rub off on people as well. So I try to be as positive as possible before. Don't do it all the time. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood, and I'm just like I maybe had forgot to get my dinner or whatever. I'm just like rushing about and I'm a bit grumpy, and I think you do notice that in the shows. Not always. Sometimes it's just like the right audience and everybody's cool and it just works for whatever reason. But sometimes, if I don't set the night off in the right way, the tone's not quite right. You definitely notice. I think.
What would be your advice on prepping before a show and prepping, like in terms of just on the day and prepping like a couple weeks in advance?
For promoting a show or for performing?
When the show's on, like as a promoter, like
Yeah,
managing it, making sure things flow, and in terms of like, yeah, promoting it,
yeah,
making sure people
yeah,
come in and keep coming back.
yeah. I think promoting it is just like getting us there as early as possible definitely makes a difference. Sometimes I'm there too early and I've kind of ran out of things to do. But I can just sit and do my Wordle or whatever. It's not a big deal. Or check my phone. But getting there early and doing first thing you should do, I think, get there early and just do a quick sound check, even if it's just like saying hello into the microphone. Because sometimes occasionally you could forget to do that until 10 minutes before doors open, and you realise that the cable's blown and you've got to replace it. We went through so many cables at the Glasgow Comedy Festival. It's a pain in the arse, actually. It's just been doing that check as early as possible. Uh, we're quite we've got good enough relationships with the 2 main venues that a lot of the setups already done for us. In Edinburgh, Alex, the owner of Dragonfly, has everything set up perfect for us. We just basically have to turn up and go, basically. So you could turn up at 7:45, 15 minutes before and be okay. But I always like to get there early, just check in with the staff. I'll tell them we've got 30 people coming. Your break times are going to be probably 8:45 and 9:30 or whatever. Just like let them be prepared. But they've all been there quite a while now. They know the drill. But just getting there as early as possible, making sure everybody's like got their kind of tasks, and they've got their own. They know what's coming. Occasionally, I will forget to tell people. Like, we're in communication all throughout the week or whatever, but sometimes I forget to tell people it's a busy show, and I've turned up a couple of times and oh, by the way, it's sold out, and like, oh, right, okay, we probably could have done with knowing that beforehand. We could have taken, like, put another member of staff on the bar or something like that. So just trying to make sure everybody knows what's coming up and communicate as much as possible. I've done that before. It's quite embarrassing. But yeah, it's just communication and being as punctual as possible. For sure, I think you need to do that.
And then this is a thing that I've heard, like a lot of promoters can have a one-off gig where there's tons of people, but what is your advice for making sure that audiences keep coming back, apart from just a good show and a good experience? What's your thoughts on, like, what's your unique thing that you've done that sounds obvious, but people don't do to keep people coming back?
I think is keeping it as good value for your money as possible is definitely one of them. Our Edinburgh show has been £5 to get in the whole time. We've never increased it. And our Glasgow show is the best. It's the lowest ticket price on a weekend comedy show in Glasgow. So I think just making sure people know that they're not going to break the bank on their night out, and they're going to be looked after. They're going to be made to feel welcome. I think it's important. We have two different audiences. Edinburgh's audience is a completely different audience every single week because it's tourists. There's, I think, 3 or 4 people that come maybe once a month to Edinburgh, but it's pretty much a brand new audience every week because Edinburgh is such a busy tourist city. It's just 35 new people that come in every week. So that's hard. You're kind of relying on a wee bit of kind of a wing and a prayer, just hoping these people turn up, which generally speaking do. Whereas Glasgow, we've got lots of regulars and it's local people. So it's just making sure that they see us as a kind of cozier night out. With all of our advertising, our nights are described as intimate. I think on the Glasgow venue, I put in the ticket or the event description, sitting at the back is like sitting at the front because it's like the size of a large living room, the venue. So it's just making sure that they know what they're coming into, and when they come, they feel safe and feel comfortable, and they laugh, and then they realise they've not spent that much money. But that's the hardest part of like comedy promoting. Is I think I do everything when it comes to running comedy shows as good as anyone, apart from selling tickets. That's my one weakness, and it's annoying that that's the most important part. I think everything up until selling tickets, I think I run better shows, like better lineups than I have. Like everything's organised better than anything else. But when it comes to selling tickets, that's my one, not my one weakness, but a weakness anyway. Like some weeks we're fine, we sell out and it's not a big deal, but that is the hardest part, is keeping on. That is the worst part of comedy promoting it, is checking ticket sales all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like always refreshing. Oh, it's not sold anything for an hour. What's going on, and all that sort of thing. It's just that it's a constant heartache, like checking all the time. I had to actually take myself away for 2 days 2 weeks ago, without internet access. I hadn't had a day off for like 5 weeks or something after the Glasgow Comedy Festival, and I went to the Scottish Highlands and went just on my own. I didn't go with my wife or my children. I just wanted to get away and not check ticket sales for 36 hours. It was great. I went and climbed up a mountain and stuff. It was amazing. But that is the hardest part of comedy promoting, is ticket sales in general, but just like constantly checking and seeing what's this. Actually, we've been chatting for over an hour. This is probably the longest time today that I've not checked ticket sales. Like, not saying that it's a comic effect. It's genuinely true. I'm always checking it, which I'd love to have the self-control not to do that, but I just can't. That's something that you relate to, but it's tough.
The one thing I've found, especially since COVID, is a lot of people buy on a day, or they buy like a couple of hours or 1 hour before the show. And I know that a lot of promoters cancel it on if there's two, but I've found even when I've had low numbers that I find that if you do cancel, you're gonna disappoint your fan base.
Yeah,
And well, I'm lucky to say that because I don't spend the big budget where I can afford to
yeah,
still keep it going on a low amount. But
yeah,
I've found that so many people turn up maybe just on the door or last minute. So if you cancel it, you may, yeah, there's always that potential
yeah.
happening.
And that is definitely. I'm not sure if that's based in science or data, but it does seem like that for sure. Like people buy more on the day than ever before. It's only now, after 2.5 years with Edinburgh show, that I've learned to not worry about the ticket sales until the day. Like quite often, it's only a 35 seater. I think the Thursday show doesn't have any tickets sold. Now, about a year ago, I'd be panicking about that, maybe even try to cancel the show. But I know Thursday might not sell out, but there'll be 25 people in there because everybody buys on the day, on the door, or on the day, or just the day before. And that is a definite thing. People just either not, they're just kind of hedging their bets or something, or just like not sure what they're doing. There are too many choices for entertainment, but people do, as you've pointed out, buy more on the day than ever before. And I like fair play to them, but I hate these people because they give me
Yeah, me
so
too.
much, so much heartache, like worrying about what's going to happen, so much anxiety. But yeah, that's just the way the world is now. People want to take their time, really.
I'm going to just say two more things on this. They say
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Thursday's the new Friday. Have you found that as well? And what
yeah.
is something that you've learned from a movie or TV series that you apply in life?
Ooh, very good question. I think you're right. Thursday is the new Friday. I'd love to do more shows on a Thursday. Our show is always busy, and also the two other main clubs in Edinburgh, their Thursday shows are always quite busy as well. So I think there's people are like the nightlife's changing, as you know, like young folk are not going out at the weekends and getting really drunk and stuff. And I think Thursday has become a bit of a kind of weekend night for people. So I definitely agree with that. I'm not sure about advice I've learned from a movie or a that TV series that would have helped me at any point in life, let alone comedy, to be honest with you, that I can think of off the top of my head that be anywhere interesting enough for you or your listeners. I no, not really. Can't
No
think of
worries.
anything. I do. I'm a big pet. I don't know if you do this, but I rewatch so much. Like TV and movies and stuff like that. And I'm always rewatching things that I've watched a million times. So you would think I would have something on the top off the top of my head that I could say. Like I rewatch The Simpsons like all day. Like I
Oh,
just have that when I'm working doing admin and stuff. I'll just have The Simpsons on in the background. I'm just like I think I'm back on like series 10 or something. I just have it on rotation the whole time, and then I'll just have it in the back. Not really pay much attention to it, and then. I'll finish whatever I'm doing, and then when I start admin again the following day on Disney Plus, I'll just press play again and just keeps going. I just like having that in the background. So I think probably subconsciously, The Simpsons are probably putting something in my head that makes me feel better about doing admin, but it certainly soothes me quite a lot. So I don't know if I've learned anything from that, but definitely helps me keep my wits about me.
okay. And for anyone that's hearing you now, they're from Vietnam, they're from Indonesia, they're from America, they're from Ireland, or they're from wherever they're from,
All
and
the
if they're a
four big countries.
comedian or audience member, how do they get in contact with you? How do they find out about the shows?
Yeah, so our Instagram is our would put list everything there. Good Egg Com. I think Good Egg Comedy. I couldn't get it for some reason, but I quite like Good Egg Com. I think it sounds quite nice. So Good Egg Com is our Instagram handle. We have a Facebook page. Instagram feeds to that, but Facebook doesn't do very much. I did start a TikTok account for Good Egg, and I was like going to put on me doing front facing videos announcing lineups. And I started doing it quite a lot a year ago. Forgot about the account and I went in and checked it and it's got like 700 followers. Like,
Whoa!
like I don't know how that happened. So I need to get the TikTok game kicking up again. But yeah, I good egg comedy is our deal. We're easily found on all the places that you need to find comedy clubs, and we do lots of shows. We never got a chance to chat about our baby comedy shows. We do lots of baby comedy shows as well. So we've got comedy for adults and adults with their babies as well. So that's quite good. And we've got lots of, if you're interested in history as well as comedy, we've got something for you as well. Do a lot of indoor history shows as well. So quite a lot of, like, something for everybody, hopefully.
Right. So it's a bit like the saying, I think it was in the Running Man film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where the guy says everyone's a winner.
Yes. That's right, yeah. Have you seen the new one?
No, I don't know. I feel a bit put off when they remake some of these films.
Yeah, I'm like that as well, yeah. I love the first one. I watched it again not long ago. Yeah.
Do you,
It's so dark.
yeah, but I do like how they won in the end. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger won in the end, didn't he?
Yeah, he did indeed. He always does.
Yeah, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Next two episodes, we've got Sam Lee Diplock, who is a BJJ black belt and a comedian. We also got a guy who is a bit of a character, who's got into all sorts of legal disputes with Alan Partridge and Comedy Soho, and he's got in a big legal dispute. He was on the Mark Maron podcast. I'm sure it's going to be wild. But yeah, I think this next month, apart from those two, will probably be aimed at sitcoms and probably comedy clubs. And I think you mentioned Simpsons. One of the guys who I spoke to, Eric O'Shea, says that he knows one of the writers who I'm probably going to drop a message to. But
Oh,
sitcom people are bloody hard to get on. I tried to get Marnie from what's her name? The one from Only Fools and Horses.
oh yeah.
The lady that's married to Boise. I asked that, and
Marlene,
then
I think, yeah.
yeah, and the guy said, "How much are you going to pay for it?" And I said, "I don't have any money." And then I heard nothing back. Yeah,
Oh man, Marlene's not taking it. Yeah.
hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon, guys.